Welcome to The Buck Stops Here, the official audio show of NotInHallOfFame.com, and I'm your host, Kirk Buchner, The Buck, the owner and the operator of NotInHallOfFame.com and the sister sites, the Fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame and the Fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's Season 1, Episode 40, my God, of the Hall of Fame show, and we're looking at all sorts of things from the world of Hall of Fame news. Sadly, that involves quite a few deaths. Some very important people passed away in the past week. Bob Gibson, Hall of Fame pitcher, legend with the St. Louis Cardinals, passed away. Eddie Van Halen, still heartbreaking for me to even say that. One of the greatest guitarists of all time. Frankly, in my opinion, he is the greatest Axeman ever to exist. He died. Johnny Nash, of I Can See Clearly Now fame, died at age 80. And we looked at a few other things here on the show. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has announced some of the presenters. Well, it's not really presenters because it's all virtual. And we looked at really what they're going to do. We're not actually sure how that's going to transpire. All that and a lot more. We even looked at Eastern European drinks that will make you sick. I don't know that they'll make you sick. They'd make me sick. One of them I know did. Without further ado, let's bring in Evan. Evan, how you doing now that the Cubs are out?
I'm fine. That's what I said. I'm a Boston sports fan, and we didn't even field the team this year. So everything's going fine with me when it comes to baseball.
I thought maybe sort of like we're adopting some Cubbish tendencies.
No, I am actually going to go buy my son a Cubs hat, which he wants for his birthday, which is coming up later this month. But I mean, Red Sox fans and Cubs fans for growing up were basically partners in misery for so long that it's, you know, it's not a big deal to me if I want a fan. I've already lost him to the Bulls, though. The Bulls have a cooler logo for him than the Celtics do. So I've already lost him on the Bulls, but I've kept him on the Bruins, and I have a pretty good chance, I think, with the Patriots. So if I get half the teams, I'm doing okay.
Well, fair enough. So one of those bets we had, so I guess I'm now only down 3 because I won that Astros bet in terms of hit by pitch. So the Astros advanced despite that wonderful record, which is, thanks Major League
29
Baseball.
and 31. Mm-hmm. and everybody was concerned that the hockey playoffs are going to be diluted.
Oof. Yeah, so true.
The hockey playoffs at least had the correct champion. Like there's no when the Lightning beat my Bruins. Mm-hmm. I told you we that was a much better team. We were a winger short. I thought the team had a really good chance to win the whole thing, and they went out and did it. Mm-hmm. Like even after all the craziness in the hockey playoffs, the correct team won. I think it's a legitimate shot. A sub 500 team is going to win the World Series for the first time ever.
It's very true. And I guess my question here is, like, right now as we're recording this, the Yankees are up against the Tampa Bay Rays. Maybe they'll win Game 4, maybe they won't. So will this be the first time, if the Yankees go on to win Game 5, presuming they win Game 4, will this be the first time the Yankees are going up against a team and they're not the evil empire?
Yeah, someone actually asked on Twitter the other day if the Yankees Astros in the ALCS you were rooting for, and I responded to him, the Nash League. But no, he said, but you have to choose between the two teams. I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm an arch hater of the Yankees. I'd rather see the Yankees win and get to the World Series than the Astros.
That's kind of what I thought you'd say, because you're certainly a man of principle. All right, so then what would be the worst scenario, that all of a sudden Ryan Braun's now allowed to play for Houston?
That might be worst case scenario. Yeah, Ryan Braun, the most despicable human being in baseball at the moment, unless there's some murderer or rapist I don't happen to know about yet. But short of that, in Braun's the worst. And I don't care that whatever Milwaukee says. Milwaukee, I have absolutely nothing against that team or that city.
Just Ryan Braun.
I just have something against Ryan Braun.
Yeah, and it's been well documented, so we don't have to go why. I think anyone can sort of figure that out if they haven't already.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the worst case scenario is the Astros winning. Second worst case scenario is the Yankees winning. I'm rooting for, I think a Rays I don't think a Rays Marlins is going to happen, but a Rays Padres World Series would be fantastic.
I would love that.
Just these two smallest markets. But this Padres team is a lot of fun. I really like this team.
I do too.
And the rate. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it. I just agreed. I just said I do too.
Yeah. I like the fact they went all in, and I think the Rays. Honestly, like, I understand the Marlins have the 2 championships, but the Rays are almost always competitive. I mean, there are a couple of years they have to take it back with the cycle the team goes through. But that team has been a pain in the butt for essentially 20 years now. And they made one World Series back in 2008, which they lost to the Phillies. But then getting to the World Series and winning it, even though they're in my division, I'd be all for that. That's a team that always tries to compete. If they're down, it's because they're going through another cycle of trying to compete. Right? They're not actually like selling the team off like the Marlins have done twice after winning the World Series.
Well, and the Marlins just made it to the playoffs. So right now Jeter's thinking, okay, do I need to rebuild now?
Yeah. Well, here's the craziest thing come out of this playoffs. I know we're a little behind on this. Was the Minnesota Twins. Last time the Minnesota Twins won a playoff game, the Red Sox were still in their 86-year drought.
Oh, really? They've been swept every time they've been in the playoffs since?
They lost their last 18 playoff games. Holy
shit. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Yeah, which is why the Astros were like, yeah, we made it through. I'm like, you beat a team that can't win the playoffs. But yeah, no, they've lost their last 18 playoff games, which is crazy. Most of them have been against the Yankees. But yeah, it's not a good record. It's a record for all time in sports, actually. No team's ever lost 18 consecutive playoff games. The previous record was actually the Red Sox from the Game 6 of the World Series up until the 2003 playoffs. They lost 16 consecutive. But yeah, that's the new record. That's not good.
Well, I guess we'll stick with baseball. I think we always talk about the beige mistress, and she didn't strike unless something happened in the last few hours.
I actually went and checked right before this. So something happens during our show. The beige mistress is taking the week off, which only leads to one of my theories. She's in the White House and has COVID.
And for new listeners, the beige mistress is someone that we've come up with, Black Widow's lame counterpart, who kills Hungarian Olympic athletes. Because every time we've been doing a show, Evan finds out that a former Hungarian Olympian dies. And we've named her beige mistress.
Yeah, this is the first time since like August that we haven't had a dead Hungarian Olympic athlete.
But I think we're the new jinx, because this is now the second week in a row that after we recorded a show, you send me a message about somebody who just died.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where we'll start.
We're going to talk about this one in another one in a second, but it's entirely possible if you could redraft baseball history. There are a certain number of people, including me, who would have had this man as my first overall pick. And I guess when we get to the big name in music who passed away, you could probably do that with guitarists.
Absolutely.
All guitarists in history. And, I mean, he's probably close to 30 to 40% of people's first picks. I would probably still pick Hendrix first, but it's not that far off. So, But anyway, first two, Cardinals legend, Bob Gibson.
Yeah, it's... I was just like realizing this. This is only like a month after his teammate Lou Brock passed. Yeah,
Brock and Gibson, and yeah, it's been tough for Cardinals fans. One of my good friends in my office is a Cardinals fan, really the only one I know and don't despise, and he's just been real down about the whole thing. It's essentially their two greatest living players. Unless you're counting Pujols, who's still playing, I guess. Or I guess Ozzie Smith passed away within a very short time period together. It's tough for Cardinals fans.
Yeah, and part of, like the Cardinals were so good in the 60s, just because the Yankees were so good, and so there were so many other good teams, that they only won the World Series twice. But I mean, we talk all the time just how hard it is to win that, unless you're the Astros. But It'll last a little while.
Don't remind me. You know what my favorite Bob Gibson statistic is, and there are a lot of them. But Bob Gibson had 251 career wins. Mm-hmm. Do you know how many complete career complete games he has?
Oh, let's see. 260?
255.
Okay, I wasn't far off.
He has 4 more complete games than he has wins, and had wins in his career. Like, old Hoss Radbourn is like excited, like the last real pitcher in baseball is joining him up above, because that's ridiculous. Can you imagine having any pitcher who's pitched more than 3 games having more complete game wins anymore?
No, that's sort of why I created that middle reliever of the year. If I keep doing this, I think 10 years from now, I almost have to do like a setup player of the year, early middle reliever of the year, because that's just where everything is getting specialized. I was actually thinking about this the other day. I would imagine that I wonder when Major League Baseball is going to change the rule as to how you can win the ERA title, because there's not necessarily that many players anymore. I didn't look this up, but I should. How many players qualify? Because you have to have at least 1 inning per game. So 162, 60 for this year. I mean, there's less and less every year.
Yeah, I don't even know.
So I was thinking about...
Interesting. Do you think we'll ever see another 300-game winner?
No.
I don't either.
I really don't. I don't even know who's... There's no one I can even think of right now who's even that close. I guess Verlander, but now he's going to be out for a good chunk of next year.
And he's an old man at this point.
He is.
I've thought for a while, but I'm going to say now, I think the single most unbreakable record in sports is Cy Young's win record. I've
been doing a lot of stuff with hockey lately. Gretzky's 92 goals.
Oh, that's a really good one too.
Yeah, because
I think Gretzky's scoring record is ridiculously hard. I mean, Yager, think how long he played, and he never even really got that close.
Mm-hmm. Although Ovechkin's has an outside shot to sort of like get the all-time goal list, which in this day and age is incredible if he does it.
Yeah. Yeah, I still think for your career though, I can almost see someone somehow, if they change rules or make things a little bit different, catching Gretzky somehow on some level more than I can ever see anyone coming close to Cy Young.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
Is crazy.
Well, it's unless they change how you get a win. That's the only way they can do that. If they suddenly change that to if you pitch the first 3 innings.
Yeah, with this whole opener business that they try these days.
I was thinking about this before, and I'm sort of throwing this at you because, as always, we didn't prepare.
Yeah. Oh, come on. We have like 2 text messages. Come on.
Yeah, so then we did prepare. We were actually over-prepared by our standards then.
I know. What are we doing?
I'll be much lazier next week, I promise. So I was thinking, if I could sort of like go back to a sports event and not know what the result was, and just sort of like go back and just sort of like forget about what it would have been, I'm almost thinking the 1968 World Series with Gibson against McLean, with the 2 MVPs that would actually live up to the hype, because I went to the full 7 games. Gibson was fantastic. McLean struggled, but then who was that? Who's the other Tiger who just sort of like came out of nowhere to sort of like do really well?
I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, because there was another one, Lolich. Okay, that's who.
Mickey Lolich.
Yeah, Mickey Lolich. Okay, so like that might have been the only one that I can sort of think of that I could if I were to go back, just knowing what they'd done up until that series, and it would have lived up. Because there's just so many things. I mean, yeah, I think you and I would love to go see the 1980 game, USA-USSR. But how many people really thought the U.S. were going to win that leading up? Not too many.
I I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I was going to say, because the obvious answer is the USA, USSR. But if you're talking about something that lived up to the hype for it,
right?
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. If no one actually thought the US was going to win that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, in retrospect, because how many people sort of like spend as much money, or spend money maybe they don't have, to go see something that they think is going to be an ultimate, and sometimes it's going to be a fight, and to be like Tyson knocking somebody out in 30 seconds, like, okay, well, that was $5,000 down the drain. Something like that. But the two greatest pitchers, like at that time, I know McClain never became a Hall of Famer, but that whole 31-win season, especially, and we just talked about wins, 31 wins at that point wins were what we looked at. Mm-hmm. If we were looking at that with 1968 eyes. Hell, looking at that with, even when I was a little kid, I mean, like, that's the first thing I ever looked at, the back of a baseball card. How many wins did he have? Now it's so secondary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be one thing I would just sort of like love to go back and just sort of like watch that. I was actually trying to find that whole World Series on YouTube, but I couldn't.
What is the first stat you look at when you flip over a baseball card, presuming you actually see a baseball card, and they have all the stats you'd want on there? For a pitcher.
Well, it's still technically wins because that's first, but now I look at WHIP. Yeah,
WHIP is mine too. I was just wondering.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess sort of if I'm looking at a baseball stat, the first thing I go to is WHIP and like OPS. And sometimes like WHIP and OPS, those are the two things. Like, why the hell didn't anyone come up with that before?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, Wade Boggs would be a much more beloved baseball player if they had that before with OPS. I mean, Boggs, I just tell you, growing up in Boston, everyone wanted Boggs to swing the bat, and that man was perfectly content to take a walk and drove people nuts. But, like, if he played baseball, he was just ahead of his time. Played baseball 20 years later, and they'd be like, oh, my God, he's an OPS god. It wouldn't be Kevin Youkilis being the Greek god of walks. I mean, Wade Boggs, drunken chicken-eating god of walks.
Isn't that on his plaque?
It should be. The fact that he allegedly drank 26 beers on a cross-country flight should definitely be on his Hall of Fame plaque. It isn't.
I wonder what it really was, because that is an incredible number. Like, that can't be possible.
Talk about records that will never be broken. One other thing, can I just talk about that 68 season for Gibson, by the way?
I'm just looking at it now, actually, too.
And everything.
Please, yeah.
But he somehow went 22-9. Mm-hmm. They had 9 losses. Let me just repeat the rest of his things. He had a 1.12 ERA with 13 shutouts, 304 innings, and a WHIP of .853, and lost 9 games. That is insane. He had 268 strikeouts, 62 walks, gave up 38 runs, and 304 innings with 11 homers. But how do you lose 9 games, 34 complete games, and somehow lost 9 of them? Or sorry, he had 28 complete games and 34 starts. Excuse me.
I wonder what his run support was. It had to be minuscule.
It had to be awful.
Yeah.
I gotta go look up the 68 Cardinals now.
Can we isolate that by just his run support? Because if I remember right, the 68 Cardinals, it's not like they didn't have, like, they had talent like to hit. Although, Brock's not driving in any runs.
Yeah, so you had Tim McCarver, Orlando Cepeda, Lou Brock, Kurt Flug, and Roger Maris is on that team. Julian Javier, or Julian Javier, I don't know. Dal Maxville, Mike Shannon, Ed Spezio, whose son made the majors as well, Dick Schofield, a whole bunch of not bad players. Kurt Flood had the highest batting average at 301. And Orlando Cepeda led in home runs. How many home runs do you think Orlando Cepeda had in 1968? Leading home run hitter on this Cardinals team.
I guess 24.
He had 600 at-bats and 16 homers.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, I guess there's our answer, how they got 9 losses.
Yeah, 16 homers, 73 RBI. RBI, excuse me, OBP of 306. So slugging of 78. The highest OPS on the team belonged to Lou Brock at 746.
Oh my God, it's terrible.
Yeah. And Ted, 18-year-old Ted Simmons was on that team as well.
Ah.
So, as well as Steve Carlton. That's a pretty good team. How many Hall of Famers is that? Bob Gibson, Steve Carlton,
Ted Simmons,
Lou Brock, Ted Simmons, Orlando. Is Cepeda in? I never remember.
Yes, yeah.
Cepeda's in. Yeah, that's 5 Hall of Famers on 25. That's not so bad.
No, it's not bad at all. Look at that.
You should win the World Series to be a 5 Hall of Famers on your team at one time.
Yeah, look how long it took for the Tigers to get 1 Hall of Famer, and not including the manager.
Right, and Kurt Flood is one of those people who keeps coming up as someone who may get in. So.
Well, that's if they actually do that, because they don't worry about these Zoom meetings.
Yeah, well, I mean, why waste your time in a Zoom meeting when you can debate someone in person? Sorry, we're not going to politics.
Oh, that. I didn't even pick up on that. I made the mistake of watching the vice presidential debate too. The Fly has my vote.
There was a fly? I didn't hear anything about
it. No, that didn't dominate Twitter. That's all people remember. And I think that's sort of... And right after that, I said to my wife, why do I keep watching this when all people are going to remember is like 2 sound bites and a fly?
Yeah.
Nothing was answered by anybody. But...
Well, the whole thing is going to be forgotten by Saturday anyway. Except for the fly.
That's true. And Kamala, you didn't take my advice. Stop laughing. Stop laughing at things that aren't funny.
I did think of the for you when the Republicans left an empty seat for Tupac. It's literally the funniest thing the Republicans have done in a long time. So they sit a seat for Tupac with his name on it, and left it empty for the debate. So
yeah, who do you think set that up? Because that's not something that a Republican politician could really come up with. Oh, maybe Crenshaw.
Maybe, who knows?
But moving on from the ghost of Tupac,
Bob Gibson.
Yes.
So
R.I.P. Bob Gibson, greatest Cardinals pitcher ever, I'd say.
I would say yes. I'd have to think about, maybe if there's someone from the early part of the century I'm thinking of.
The only one I can think of is Dizzy Dean.
But Bob Gibson is still my number 1 player I'd draft of all time. So he's clearly the best pitcher of the Cardinals. So I think he's the number 1 guy I'd draft. Oh.
Yeah, and it's absolutely it's sad for Cardinals fans. And do we go into, I guess, what might be considered for some the biggest death of the week?
Yeah, probably the least surprising cause of death, if any, I think I can ever imagine. But yeah, Eddie Van Halen, as I said, possibly the number 1 pick for guitarist. But him dying of cancer when he basically always had a lit cigarette attached to his guitar, either in his mouth or on his guitar. So it's not surprising. So far too soon. It's very, very sad.
Yeah, he actually didn't blame the cigarettes for the cancer. He said it was the guitar picks, which, okay.
Really?
Yeah, he said because he always had brass or steel guitar picks in his mouth, and where they had to in that first surgery where they had to take out part of his tongue, he said that was always around where he had the pick. So, could be.
Interesting.
It could be. I mean, obviously, you never know. I mean, my grandfather was like a 5-pack-a-day smoker, and then he got cancer. It wasn't in his lungs or his throat or anywhere else. It was his kidneys. So, go figure.
Interesting.
just
who knew? It's like that guy, that construction worker in Boston who died from eating too much black licorice.
Yeah.
No, he didn't. I don't know if you heard about that.
No.
He died of. He ate a bag and a half of black licorice basically every day for like 30 years, and it eventually killed him. So. I work in the life insurance business. Anytime there's a weird death like that, it makes the rounds. So.
Yeah. I never saw that on 1,000 Weird Ways to Die on Spike when they had that.
Yeah, it just happened last week. So.
Oh.
Spike, he outlasted Spike.
Ah, I see. So yeah, this one got to me quite a bit. I mean, I knew that he was sick, but I hadn't heard anything for so long. You just sort of forget about it. Van Halen for me was, man, I don't know how many times I scribbled that logo into a binder or just doodling while a teacher's like yammering on something that I wasn't paying attention to. That's why I could speak so well now.
Yeah. I mean, he and his brother are poor, and one of the things that made him great, and he talked about this, was the fact they couldn't necessarily afford any of the great things that other guitar players have, like wah-wah pedals and all those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. So if he wanted to make those noises, he had to figure out how to do it himself on the guitar. And what's amazing is he actually didn't grow up playing guitar. He was a concert pianist first.
Yeah, I just learned that. I had no idea until today.
I didn't either, except then I went and saw, what video was it? Was it Jump? It's Jump, and I didn't realize that Eddie Van Halen's playing the guitar, of course, but then he's also in his garish yellow jacket with the black spikes playing the piano as well. For some reason, it never occurred to me that was the same person.
I always just assumed he was pretending. I don't know why I thought that, because he was just such a great guitar player that, well, he can't be this good at this too, which is a stupid thing to think, looking back, but just something I never thought of.
Yeah, but I mean, when he passed too, is that the first time you've ever heard of the Rock Hall putting their flag at half-mast? I
didn't even know they did that.
Yeah, they put the flag at half-mast in honor of Eddie Van Halen. I never heard of that before. It doesn't mean that it happened, but it was just it was amazing if that was the first time they had done it.
Maybe it's just the first time they ever thought about doing it, because there's certainly a lot of people they could have done that for.
Right, yeah, I mean, Chuck Berry just a couple years ago was the first person that immediately springs to mind.
Yeah.
Little Richard.
Yeah, I think
more recently than that.
I think it's just something that somebody just said, hey, this is something we should do. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that, which now sort of brings up this now, I guess they put themselves now in this weird position. All right, so is this person now worthy of half-mast?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very good question. If it's Alice Cooper himself who passes away, then probably yes. But if it's any of the other members, probably no. Well,
I was going to say if it's Alex Van Halen, they're not doing it.
No.
And that's no disrespect to Alex, a very good drummer.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite song by Van Halen?
I always like to Run In With the Devil. That's the first one that comes to mind. Of course, who doesn't love Jump? How about you?
For me, it's Unchained.
Oh, Unchained's a great too.
Yeah,
there's too many of them. That's part of the problem.
Yeah, there's just so many. Like I kind of lost touch. I don't want to say lost touch. That's not quite true. And we're going to be actually covering Jump on the next number one song. We weren't planning to, but we're going to do that in Eddie's honor. That's actually
that makes sense.
Yeah, it turned out to be their only number one hit. I didn't realize just how big that album was in reference to 1984. I think maybe because I had an older brother, and like before 1984 came out, I was hearing Van Halen since I was like a little kid. Van Halen came out like in '78, and I know my brother had the albums right away, so I grew up listening to that. So when 1984 came out, I didn't realize that was necessarily their mainstream breakthrough, because to me they always were. if that makes any sense.
I mean, Eruption from that Van Halen album is just ridiculous for Eddie's guitar playing. This is another one that's popped in my head. Sorry, go back to your...
Yeah, no, and I think also, too, just being in the suburbs, like, just, you know, it was predominantly like a hard rock, heavy metal crowd, like in school. Mm-hmm. Like, that's Van Halen you'd hear in the not in the classroom, but like on the outside, Motley Crue. Those two bands, I heard so much of that. Like, that's my preteens and early teen years right there. It was just like almost everything Van Halen. When David Lee Roth left the band, I thought for sure Van Halen was done. That's the 14, 15-year-old me sort of like looking back. And then I should have known right away, as soon as I saw California Girls, like, it's Eddie who sort of reins in this crazy kook. David Lee Roth on his own was not, how do I put this? He's basically Sting without the police.
I think Sting's better than David Lee Roth.
Okay,
I'm considering it.
I really dislike Sting's solo career. Maybe I'm being harsh. Although when I look at David Lee Roth now, is it just me or does he look like Chris Kattan?
Yeah, let's take a look at that. I haven't actually...
Well, just take a look. Just like Google him now, what he looks like, and then just remember Night at the Roxbury. Just picture David Lee just tilting his head. Dun, 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 dun.
He does a little bit.
Okay, so then it's not just me.
I always thought that David Lee Roth was my mom's best friend, Merle Gordon, who's a Jewish lady who teaches in Saugus, Massachusetts. And so I always thought he looked very much like my mom's best friend.
What is it with a lot of these 80s hair metal guys? They're not hair metals, but 80 rock gods, like Steven Tyler. Dude looks like a lady.
Yeah, there's a picture here of Van Halen with David Lee Roth over his shoulder, and David Roth looks more like Don Amici than anything in that picture. And I'm talking like Folks era Don Amici, which is a deep cut. The 1993 Don Amici Tom Selleck classic.
Oh, Folks, yes, I remember that. That was horrible.
Yeah, where he just kept saying McDonnell Douglas makes good playing. So
I got to mention, every time Tom Selleck did a movie, he kept thinking come on, this is going to be the Indiana Jones. It has to be. You ever see that?
Yeah.
You ever see that clip?
Bate?
I actually went on a date to see Mr. Baseball. I forget her name. That doesn't matter. You ever see actually the test of Tom Selleck doing Indiana Jones?
No.
Yeah, no, it's on YouTube. It's actually not bad. You easily visualize it. It would have been totally different, but he could have done it. In full Magnum mustache. It was awesome. So when Van Halen sort of when Roth sort of departed the band, I couldn't get into them as much, and it's no disrespect to Sammy Hagar. I just maybe the band's direction just wasn't. I don't know. I think there was a lot of people like me. Yet at the same time, that was actually their most commercially successful period. I didn't realize this until today. Van Halen never had a number one album until Sammy Hagar, and then they had 4 in a row.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, who would think that? But that's exactly what happened. So commercially, they had way more success with Sammy Hagar, and I know when you look at all the guys who were in Van Halen, who's the guy you'd want to party with or like hang out with?
Yeah, Eddie.
Really? Because for me, knowing what I know now and just like after interview upon interview that I've been watching, it's Sammy.
Eddie from 1979 through 83 could probably lay claim to be the coolest person on the planet.
Well, you know why else?
Why?
Okay. And this is sort of where my slight age difference over you sort of will come in. Valerie Bertinelli. There is no one my age who did not absolutely love Valerie Bertinelli.
My wife is named after her.
Oh, really?
We're not 100% sure, but we're like 95% sure. My father-in-law will neither confirm nor deny. But my in-laws had several failed pregnancies along the way, so they didn't bother to name the child until my wife was actually born, because she's the oldest of three. And my father-in-law was waiting. He was apparently flipping through magazines and saw Valerie Bertinelli in there and decided they would go with Valerie for the first name. I have no proof of this, but that is the most likely thing that happened, because it had never been a name they had discussed. So, well,
there are worse people you can be named after than Valerie Bertinelli. She was hot. She was sexy. She was cute. She's talented, and she's so likable.
Mm-hmm.
Still is all of those things. I mean, her Twitter handle is Wolfie's mom.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Eddie was sort of.
And when.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, when they got divorced and he got remarried shortly thereafter, she and Wolf were both there at the wedding.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Which is an interesting thing to me, when someone gets divorced and still is an adult enough to have a relationship with the person who, was there still. I mean, if it's an abusive relationship, get the hell out of there. But
they were married,
drifted apart, and it's not working anymore. That's it's a very adult thing to do.
They were married 25 years. Like, that's crazy in Hollywood terms.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the span of well, that's the lifespan of Don Amici.
Trivia question.
Sure.
Let's see if you know the answer to this.
Okay.
Don Amici, I believe, first film was a movie called In Old Chicago. Okay.
Okay.
Which was nominated in 1933. Was nominated for an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
What is the most remarkable thing about In Old Chicago? It's the first movie to spend $1 million on what?
I never even heard of this movie. On, I don't know, cinematography?
Special effects.
That makes way more sense.
They built a version of Chicago, because it's all about the Chicago fire.
Okay.
They built a replica of Chicago, lit it on fire, and just let it burn, and everybody had to act out their stuff while it was burning. So they spent $1 million recreating the city of Chicago so they could burn it while everything was acting, and everybody had to basically get it in one take or whatever else, or couldn't really reshoot it.
I don't know if that's pressure or no pressure.
It's an absolute crazy idea. The movie's actually pretty good. I told you my wife and I had that project we're way behind on to watch every movie ever nominated for Best Picture, and that was one of the first ones. That movie, if you just want something just to see it, 1933 in Chicago with very, very young Don Amici is one I highly recommend, just as you don't have to think too hard about it, and it's not that long. It's like an hour and 20 minutes. But, yeah.
And you said Amici won? You said Amici won the Oscar for that?
No, the movie was nominated for Best Picture.
Oh, okay. Because
Amici did not win an Oscar.
He did for Cocoon, which was silly. I mean, not that he was bad in it. He was perfectly fine. But I mean, it's not an well. We could just do a show on just weird Best Supporting Actor winners that have no business winning. Marissa Tomei, I'm looking in your direction.
I take that back. That was a fantastic performance.
Is it an Oscar-worthy winning performance?
I'm being 100% serious on this.
Okay, all right. Forget about what we were going to talk about. Please explain yourself on this one.
Let me first get up who was also nominated that year. That was 1993.
Yeah, it was like 4 British women.
Yeah, all right. So, because there's that conspiracy theory that she wasn't supposed to win and it was misread.
Well, I've heard that. I mean, I don't believe that. I believe that she legitimately won it.
Yeah,
I just don't know why.
Okay, so I can't speak to how Judy Davis was in Husbands and Wives, or Joan Plowright was in Enchanted April, or Miranda Richardson was in Damage. Vanessa Gregg was very good in Howard's End, but Howard's End is one of the most boring movies of all time. So that's fine with me. Marissa Tomei is a revelation in that movie. Name another character like Marissa Tomei's character ever. A street smart woman who can hold up to herself in court against people who are trying to prove that she's an idiot. Superman's future boss, Lane Smith, had no shot against her. Even Herman Munster, the judge, not that I've seen my cousin Vic a whole bunch, couldn't believe how good she was. And that most of that whole thing was improvised.
Okay, but it was Tommy DeVito that got them off.
Okay. He's not a Best Supporting Actress. Who was she up against?
You just said four old British women.
Like, it's a weak. Again, I can't speak to. The only one of those movies I've definitely seen, and I remember anything about. I may have seen Husbands and Wives at one point, but the only one I definitely remember out of those was Howard's End. It's not like there's some absolutely blow you away performance in there, right?
All right. Okay.
I mean,
when you've got it that way, I get the point. I mean, like, what am I going to replace her with? Because you're right. Because you're talking about four roles that I don't remember and I never saw them, but then I never have to see them.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, if you want to argue something, I mean, Unforgiven is great, but I would make the argument that Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men is more memorable than Gene Hackman in Unforgiven.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, and I mean that's God, that was a weird year for women because Emma Thompson won Howard's End for Best Actress, and Al Pacino won for Scent of a Woman, and never playing that character ever again.
Hooah!
Hooah! Yeah. So yeah, that was the Best Actor. Pacino, Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven, and Denzel as Malcolm X. That was a tough year.
Actually, looking at the Golden Raspberries might be sort of fun too. I think they're hard on a lot of pictures that they really shouldn't be. But as I'm sort of thinking about this, I can now see clearly now.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. And that there's another person who passed away that I have to admit, I was way off on his backstory. Like, completely off. Another number one artist passed away, and Johnny Nash, with one of the most positive, cheery, and not in your face about it songs. I can see clearly now, The Rain Is Gone. Johnny Nash passed away at age 80. Didn't say how, I guess. I guess every time now when somebody passes away, I don't know about you, I look to see if it's COVID.
Yeah, it said a period of failing health, so who knows exactly what that means.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, I just assumed he was part of, the island movement coming in the 60s and 70s. The only part I got right is that he recorded in Kingston. He was reggae influenced with a lot of his music. But no, I mean, this guy was putting out music since he was 17 years old. Like, I didn't realize this until I was looking through this. Like, oh my God, he had his first top 50 hit at age 17 in 1957.
Yeah. And he had another one in 58 with a cover of Doris Day's Very Special Love. But he's from Houston. though. Not very island-like at all.
I had no idea.
He was marked. Yeah, and the funny thing was, I'll let you go into your story.
Yeah.
But he was marketed originally as a rival to Johnny Mathis.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
Oh, okay. So this, for the Canadians listening, I think they'll be sort of like, they'll know this. So all the Canadians my age, or a little younger, a little older, I remember just sort of like get drunk and talk to people about this in university, among doing other interesting substances. Johnny Nash sang the theme for a cartoon called The Mighty Hercules, which, as you would guess, it's about Hercules. I thought for all this time it was sung by Johnny Mathis. No, it's Johnny Nash. Jesus. And you never saw this cartoon, right?
No.
Okay. So, I mean, it's like done in the 60s, so it's like really, really bad. But all these reruns that I would see in the 70s and 80s and shit like that, because it just filled up a nice little 10-minute block. It was cheap, I guess, to buy, for... I think because it was also produced in Canada, that also filled that Canadian content rule, that all the Canadian channels had to have something that was of Canadian content. So they would just put blocks of Mighty Hercules. So Hercules, this dumbass, he was only powerful on Earth when he had his ring. So he'd go down from Mount Olympus, he'd look around at everything, and then there'd be something happen, like, oh, I better put on my ring. Half the damn episodes was because he didn't put his ring on.
It's like Popeye, like, oh, wait, if I eat spinach, this will be fine.
Exactly. Like, why didn't you just eat spinach at the start of the episode? Then none of this would happen. Like, you just came down. You didn't have to take off your ring when you're just jumping down from the mountain. Like, have your ring. There's no reason to take it off. Like, what, were you in the shower? And he'd have two centaur friends, Newton and Toot. Yeah. So Newton,
two of the ones who shot arrows at Harry in the Forbidden Forest, I think,
or something. So Newton would talk like, "Over here, Herc, over here. Oh my God, it's deadless! It's deadless!" Because there would always be the same three villains, and Toot would just
that's like really good. Sorry, it's just that was a really good Mickey Mouse that you weren't trying to do.
But that's what. Look it up. That's what it was. Like, whoever did the voice of Newton was probably trying to do that. I didn't even realize it was Mickey inspired, but yeah, it was. And then there was like Toot, and Toot would just sort of like play his two flutes, and it was always the same chord. What's that, Toot? What's that? It's deadless? Well, he's over there? Jesus. Like, why are you hanging around with these two centaurs? Don't you have anything else to do? No? Okay. So you fight three villains at the same time. Or not at the same time. So it'd be Deadless, Wilhelmine, and the Mask. Mask was just as dumb, because he only had power when he put his mask on. So obviously the whole time when he'd fight the Mask, he'd have to get the damn mask off. But at the end of every episode, he'd win, and then he would take whichever one of these three villains up to Mount Olympus. Olympia! And he'd take him away, and then the next episode, there they were again. Like, what was it, Johnny Cochran, like, getting them off? Like, what? Like the Portland DA? They're just like, it's okay. What the hell's going on? That's my rant on a cartoon that no one's ever seen.
Maybe it's just like The Simpsons. It just resets every time. Oh, it's Groundhog Day.
That could be.
Every day.
But they'd always, like, play 4 in a row. So, I mean, I just saw him sort of get taken off to, like, Mount Olympus for jail, I assume, and there he is out again. Out on parole? I mean, Derek Chauvin just got out. I guess they just posted $1 million for him, too. I don't know. That always bothered me. And that was our tribute to Johnny Nash.
There you go.
Who's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Before we move on, just to that other thing, I just want to point out one other person from reggae who passed away this week before we move on, and that's Bunny Lee, who was a Knight of the British Empire, or the OD, whatever you call it. Oh. I'm not sure what that officially stands for. You're the Canadian, you would know. But he's the guy who did Lee Scratch Perry and Johnny Clark and all those guys. He was their producer, kind of like the third producer of reggae music, who also passed away at the age of 79 earlier this week. So he died he didn't have kidney problems for years. But he passed away earlier this week. So I just want to put that in before we went on to the next thing, since we're already talking reggae.
Yeah.
You had such a good segue going. I'm sorry.
Oh, none of my segues are good. They're all horrible. So
we've now lost Bunny Wailer and Bunny Lee this year.
Man, all we need to lose is Bugs Bunny.
It's a tough year of music.
It is. Oh, it's a pretty... especially if you want to... Sort of like, you talk about a tough year for music. So we're going to have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they've announced appearances, but I guess they're all virtual.
Mm-hmm.
So,
at least none of them are hologram. At least we got that going for us, as far as we know.
Yeah, exactly. So, have you been watching, like, any of the virtual ceremonies? Like, I didn't watch the Emmys. Like, did you?
No.
Okay.
I don't watch shows unless my wife makes.
Okay, yeah, and
so
I'm going to go slightly political here because I listen to a lot of politics, left wing, centrist, right wing, and the right wing people were gloating like, "See, nobody wants to hear about all the Black Lives Matter stuff. That's why the ratings are so down." It's like, you idiots! It has nothing to do with Anthony Anderson berating Jimmy Kimmel. That was a little cringy, yes, but that's not why people tuned out, because they didn't know he was going to do that. There's so many goddamn TV shows that there's a lot that I don't know anymore, especially if it's on Amazon Prime. I don't have it. I'm sure they're really good, but I've never seen them. And there's a lot of people like that. Mm-hmm. The ratings aren't the same, and you just sort of like hit it right on the head when you talked about your wife. My wife would watch the Oscars. I don't generally watch the Oscars, but she watches for all the pre-show and what they're wearing. Well, there was none of that. That's why the ratings were so down. Stupid right-wing pundits.
Right.
Don't take a victory lap over that. That's just another little political thing, because they sometimes have great points. That wasn't one of them. But yes, so I guess we should sort of look at the appearances by and then trying to figure out how they're going to fit in.
Yeah. Yeah, so who are Luke Bryan and Brad Paisley putting in here? The Doobie Brothers?
I would guess so. I'd love to see Luke Bryan sort of cover Personal Jesus, because Johnny Cash did.
That would be interesting. Like, it's just a somewhat weird collection of people here. And the fact that there's like, how many of them? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 people listed here. And then it says, and more. So, like, how many people do they have for the 6 people being inducted?
Well, these are the only people who've returned the email and said they'll do it.
Possibly. Well, I mean, I like we said, we can't believe they got Ringo Starr.
Yeah, Ringo Starr. Oh my, yeah.
I think the biggest thing here is it's the shocking lack of Elvis Costello.
I want to go back to Ringo. I think like when he looks at his emails, he might be one of those guys who actually says yes to the Nigerian prince.
Sorry, in my office, we actually had one of my agents. A lead came into the office. We gave to the agent, and the guy's like, "Yeah, I'm going to inherit $1.4 million pretty soon." He's like, "All right." He's like, "I know what to do with it." Went down. He sat with the guy on Zoom. He's talking about it. He's like, "Well, where are you getting the $1.4 million?" He's like, "Oh, my uncle's apparently a prince in Nigeria, and he's going to pass away." The kid thought he was getting his own Nigerian prince scam, and his first response was to come find a financial advisor. He's both an idiot and a genius at the same time. Oh, wow. That happened this week. That happened on Monday.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That might be the best story ever. You're going to get so much mileage out of that.
Oh, well, it's not even my story. It's one of my agent's stories, but yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good.
But yeah, so Ringo.
Anyway, do you want to
Well, yeah, because I guess we'll just go through them alphabetically. So Luke Bryan, I mean, like, I think we're both not really sure what he's going to be doing, but the Doobies make the most sense.
Right.
Well, Sean Diddy Combs, that's super easy. Obviously, he's there for Biggie.
It's T-Rex. Whatever, T-Rex.
Well, but Miley Cyrus, whenever she goes out of her normal zone, I'm usually very intrigued.
Yeah, could this be a Whitney Houston? Well, Jennifer Hudson's probably the Whitney Houston.
I would think so. Miley, based on this list here, there's not exactly anything that just sort of fits Depeche Mode. Actually, I'd love to see Miley Cyrus do Personal Jesus. I'm not even being facetious. I mean that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it. I was looking for Depeche Mode, and let's keep going through everybody else. We'll see where we can put people.
All right, Dave Grohl. I see that with 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah, he's just getting ready for being in there next year, presumably we have a class.
Although, when you're looking at who all these other people for T-Rex, I mean, Grohl is such a music historian. He could go anywhere and make it believable.
That is true. I just figured Henley was T-Rex.
Could be. Although, the Eagles and the Doobies have a bit of crossover, don't you think?
Well, that is true.
Yeah. I think Jennifer...
Those people could be going multiple places, too.
That's also... Yeah, that's very true. Jennifer Hudson, I mean, if that's not Whitney Houston, I don't know who is. Alicia Keys could be both Whitney and Biggie.
Mm-hmm. Because none of these are really piano-heavy bands, so I presume it's one of those two.
Mm-hmm. Adam Levine, just wear your shirt. What would he... I don't see him fitting with any of these either.
No. Or Chris Martin, really.
No, yeah, Chris Martin, God. Maybe they could both sort of go there, and that's sort of like the bathroom break.
There's actually a celebrity death match in real life. We just didn't know about it with him and Levine.
You're awful. No, you're more awful. Your music's terrible. No, yours is more terrible. And then Nickelback shows up. Sorry. Here's my beer.
And then Train shows up, and they're like, no, we're not worthy. Let's be honest. Nickelback may be bad, but Train is worse.
I heard Drops of Jupiter today, too.
That's one of the least offensive of their songs.
True.
I'm still going to go with I'm just a shy guy looking for a 2-ply, hefty bag, hold my love. Let me repeat that lyric.
Yeah, please.
I'm just a shy guy looking for a 2-ply, hefty bag to hold my love. This is a top 40 hit by Train, one of the lyrics. What the hell is going on with that lyric?
I got an idea.
So many of those lyrics are just so dumb. Like, even the least offensive one they had is that 50 Ways to Say Goodbye, where they were like pretending to that instead of breaking up that his girlfriend died, and he tells people stories. But like, she fell in a cement mixer full of quicksand. Like, if you're in a cement mixer, it doesn't matter if it's sand or quicksand. You're only sinking as far as the cement mixer goes.
No, why let logic get in the way of a good story?
And that is by far their least offensive song in for the last 15 years. So, but every time I hear it, I'm like, oh my God. So
we don't know what those two, Levine and Martin, will do. Same with this one, Lin-Manuel Miranda.
He's going to be there for Notorious B.I.G. Because Miranda is an incredible freestyle rapper.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I mean, Hamilton itself is just an incredible,
Never seen it.
Musical. But he's also been on Jimmy Fallon multiple times, having rap contests or rap competitions against Black Thought from the Roots.
Is he a New York guy too?
So, via Puerto Rico, yeah.
Okay. All right, so
yeah, he grew up in Heights. The Heights musical he wrote is about growing up in the Heights.
Okay. Springsteen.
I just hope it's Whitney Houston.
I just called. No, that's Stevie Wonder. What the hell am I doing?
I just want to dance with somebody.
Thank you. You saved me on that one. I don't know what the hell I'm thinking of Stevie Wonder for. Jesus.
Yeah. I knew where you're going.
I'm glad you did. Clearly I didn't.
Hey, remember that time that I could entirely confuse the Grassroots with the Hollies? Believe me, dude, I went like 2 minutes so you're like, wait, you have the wrong band. So I understand, with our lack of... I was trying to make a point of how the Grassroots are like the last 60s band to be elected. I used my entire argument by using Holly songs instead in my head. So believe me, these things happen. Don't worry about it.
St. Vincent, she could do any of these. I mean, it's not going to be Whitney because of who they have.
Yeah, there aren't enough Nine Inch Nails people here.
I could see her doing. I'd love to see that. I mean, of course, just because they're there doesn't necessarily mean they're going to sort of like do something specific to any one of these artists. I mean, you'd think they would, based on previous ceremonies, but we don't know what they're going to do.
Right. And then we get to Ringo Starr.
Well, even then, what the hell is he going to do?
I'm presuming he's T-Rex.
Get it on. Bing a gong. I hung it on me wall. Gwen Stefani.
She might be T-Rex too.
She could.
Who knows? She could. And Charlize Theron, I can't even begin to tell you. It'd be awesome if she did Nine Inch Nails. Bow down for the one you serve. I get to
some of them have got to have the Ahmet Erdogan Award winner. So, all right, thanks, Charlize, for being part of it. And you're going to do Irving Azoff. Someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it. Maybe that's Ringo. Ringo gets to do the awards.
Wouldn't that be perfect, considering that it's a crowbar? He got in through a crowbar, and no one really cared that he got in. It was that favored up hall.
No, nobody cared. Like him being in the hall twice doesn't really help or hurt anybody's feelings. So, other than my feelings that if they can get Ringo in twice, they can find a way to get Tina Turner in twice. Or Diana Ross.
You're more passionate about Tina Turner than Diana Ross, right?
Yes, I'm much more passionate about Tina Turner than Diana Ross. Because Diana Ross' solo career is roughly equal or slightly less than her career with the Supremes.
Mm-hmm.
Tina Turner's solo career is greater than her career with Ike, and Ike beat the shit out of her. So let her in on her own.
And I'll say it again. I've said it before. I'll say it again. My favorite album of cover songs, Tina Turner, Acid Queen, 1975. Check it out. Easy to find on YouTube, iTunes, everything. If that's not the first woman of rock or first lady of rock, whatever you want to call it, whatever moniker, debate me after listening to that album.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't leave Switzerland, so at this point. So if they did a rock induction for her, who knows if she'd show up at this point? Particularly in that COVID environment, I don't think she's going to leave. But they need to figure something out. Okay, so then moving forward here, because these are our topics. So the next couple of weeks, we're going to be pretty busy in October. We've got a preliminary group to help out with our mock football Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. We've got, we're almost sort of set for the creation of our United States Athletic Hall of Fame. But do we go ahead and get our mock group for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and nominate some people? Ooh. Because
you and I, we talked about this a lot. We don't even know if they're going to even put out a list.
Right. Yeah, like I said, there are 2 first Hall of Famers coming out. I've been doing my countdown here on Twitter, and we're up to number 25 will be the next one I put out. Mm-hmm. And it's, it's filter, right? So this list, I think out of this year, there's going to be 5 eventual Hall of Famers, maybe 4 definite, maybe as many as 6. But there are 2 first ballots. And the first time there have been 2 clear first ballots in a while. It's Jay-Z and it's the Foo Fighters. Nobody can argue against either of those. I mean, unless there are people who argue that Raptors belong in the Hall of Fame. That boat has sailed 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. So just stop it.
Yep, agreed.
And it's so long as Raptors in the Hall of Fame, Jay-Z is in the Hall of Fame. So, I mean, there's no question that Jay-Z and the Foo Fighters should both be there. And it'd be weird for them not to have a class when they have that opportunity.
So, I'm trying to think. When did they nominate the semifinalists last year?
I think it was October 15th.
Eesh. All right, so we might not have gotten in for this one. So we might have too much on our plate.
Yeah, but I don't... There's been no signs that they're going to nominate anybody. Like, none of the people who follow this even closer than we do. We follow it fairly closely. Mm-hmm. People who follow it more closely than we do, and none of them have heard anything about this.
Okay. All right. So I guess we should reach out to the people that we know and then just see if we can put something together in the next week or so.
I'm looking at next year's, the people who are eligible for the first time in 2022.
Yeah.
So just highlights on them. Backstreet Boys, Fatboy Slim, Fiona Apple, Eminem. Yeah. Eminem the first time. Limp Bizkit.
That's interesting.
Matchbox 20.
That's not interesting.
Nickelback. The Trim Radio Gods. Standing outside a broken phone booth with money in my hand. Shakira.
Very interesting.
The Spice Girls. One of my favorite bands who I don't think will ever get in, but I love Boone so very much. Mm-hmm. They're never getting in. Yeah, Fuel. I mean, the Hives.
Love the Hives.
It's just Eminem is the only obvious first ballot there, right?
I'd say so. Like, God,
Shakira's in the conversation.
How amazing is it, or how old do I feel right now? Thinking that, oh my God, Fiona Apple's been around for 25 years.
I know.
I think what I might start doing on the Facebook site, or maybe just over Twitter. Here's how you feel old. 20 years ago, this was a hit. Because I don't feel that music almost has changed all that much in the last 20 years.
Yeah. But some of these other ones that are here, like Fountains of Wayne, are eligible next year for the first time.
Shit. That's Stacey. And I'm like, oh my God, that
was a fun hit. But yeah, that was a long freaking time. Also eligible, Fastball. The band out of San Antonio with their 2 hits and Out.
Yeah.
Was I out of my head? Was I out of my mind? How could I have ever been so blind? And then, of course, The Way. But I mean, those were the jams of the summer, 1996. Mm-hmm. Really, 1996 was a really bad year for summer music. I remember that off the top of my head. I'm like, these are the only songs that are even any fun. You haven't really heard of them since then.
No.
But that's 25 years ago.
And half of those bands won't even make the rock list that I've got.
Oh no. Yeah, well, I mean, there are a whole bunch more too on here. I can't imagine. Well, Modest Mouse is here too.
They'll make it.
But like a whole bunch of these bands.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of these bands. Bell and Sebastian.
Yeah.
Try to figure out the line for your list is. Stained. Robbie Williams, Real Big Fish, Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
No.
Hey, if Darlene Love can get in for her Christmas stuff, Trans-Siberian Orchestra has done a hell of a lot of work on Christmas.
Then by that definition, Alvin and the Chipmunks should have been in years ago.
We got them in the Hall of Fame. We just got them in our Hall of Fame.
That's true. That's very true.
But when are the finalists coming out for our Hall of Fame? Is that November?
That's actually going to be in the next 2 weeks or so. I have to talk to the webmaster and set something up. It'll be before November, and then there'll be a big push. I'm thinking, remember I talked about sort of we do a show on just Christmas songs?
Mm-hmm.
If it's a dead week, but it's sometime before October, maybe just a standalone show, I think a show of the 10 best Halloween songs. Halloween isn't done much here in Barbados, so I kind of there's no trick or treat, not that there would be anyway, with COVID. So
have you listened to that Stephanie Maybe song I told you about?
I have not.
If I Were a Zombie?
I have not.
Just do yourself a favor. It's a fun little song. Just go find it for yourself if you just need something different to listen to.
I always need something different to listen to. I'm always up for that.
Yeah, and there's a good fan video of it, which is basically a stick figure version of it, which is actually well done for a stick figure music video that I recommend you watch at the same time. But yeah, that Stephanie Maybe song, If I Were a Zombie, is one of my favorite sort of pop Halloween songs. There aren't that many of them, and that's a pop Halloween song in the indie rocker version of things. So
I'll have to listen to that, and that might be in my top 10 if we convene with that idea.
It could be. There's some obvious ones I'm thinking of. Ray Parker Jr. comes to mind.
That'll be on yours.
The Nightmare
that won't
Before
be on
Christmas
mine.
comes to mind. Pennywise and Little Children comes to mind. Come, little children, I'll take thee away. That's a creepy song. That's super creepy. I'll have to think about this. Yeah, I'll get those together. If nothing that we think is going to happen next week happens next week, let's have that run.
Well, people still keep dying, so there's that.
Oh, that's always going to happen. And who knows? Maybe the beige mistress has had her fill of blood for now. So
or something. It could very well be. I mean, like Hungarian food, it's a very rich diet.
I still say that their national drink is the worst national drink.
What's their national drink?
So, Unicum.
What the hell's that?
The national alcohol. It is a black liquid that comes in a bottle that's shaped like a cartoon ball. And it, you know that old line from Love Potion Number 9 that smelled like turpentine and looked like India ink? That was really about Unicum. It is one of the most foul substances I have ever consumed and lived to tell about. The only other ones that come up there are Palinkabat, which is a Serbian national drink, which is basically an Unicum knockoff. Slightly sweeter, like sweet turpentine. So that's why it's second. And then, of course, the drink that's supposedly Sweden's drink, but is actually probably more pop here in Chicago, Malort, which is, I'm not even quite sure what Malort is. It's clear, and I'm pretty sure 2 shots of it will knock you unconscious.
It's got to be something in Europe. There's my dad had a Romanian lodge brother because my dad's a Freemason, and he brought him back some this plum stuff. I don't even know what you call it. I have to ask him what it was called. He probably still has it.
It's probably the Unicum and Palinkabat. They're all right next to each other.
Well, this one was clear, though.
They're having a competition for who could come up with the worst liquid. So,
what's the worst thing that we could ferment? and we'll run with that.
That's the thing, though. I was in Budapest, and they figured out I was an American, and the first thing the Hungarians did was put me shots of vinegar.
Like, did you have your cowboy hat on and like wearing like with the USA flag? Is that how they knew?
I have my apple bottom jeans and the boots with the fur. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, we got that ready for next week, and hopefully, let's not have anyone big die.
Absolutely.
No more fantasy.
Absolutely, and who knows? Maybe the Rock Hall will sort of give us something. I doubt it, but maybe we should just, I guess, sooner than later, see if we're going to put that together. Definitely, we'll be having some Zoom conversations soon. We'll be updating everyone accordingly on that, and I don't know, maybe right after we do the Zoom, you and I can just sort of like do a call of how it all went. Because I don't think I'll...
yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, because I don't think I'm going to post the Zoom, just in case.
Okay, sure,
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just in case. Well, I don't know. And because there's some people who may not be comfortable with that, who we're having on this.
Yeah, sure. And we could change names to protect the guilty.
Exactly. All right, stay safe, Evan.
I'll talk to you later, man.
All right, bye. Thank you so much for listening. Look for new content regularly from us at nonhalloffame.com. Stay safe, everyone.